If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say? The words you needed back then. If you could sit across from your younger self right now, not as a ghost, not in a dream, but truly sit eye to eye, soul to soul, what would you say? Would you hold their hand? Would you cry before the words even came? Would you apologize? Would you warn them? Or would you just listen to the silence, to the ache, to the child who still lives somewhere inside your skin? This isn't just a question, it's a return, not to a place, but to a part of you that never stopped waiting. The child you carried and forgot there was a time when you believed everything. You believed love would always stay, that your laughter wouldn't fade, that if someone said forever, they meant it. And then something broke. Someone left. Someone shouted. Someone touched you in a way that turned your light into confusion. Or maybe they didn't come at all. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they loved you with conditions or not at all. And so you grew up. But you didn't grow whole. You grew protective. You grew silent. You grew careful with your own heart. If you could go back now and sit next to that child, the one who still flinches at certain sounds, the one who stopped playing too soon, what would you say? Maybe you'd whisper, it wasn't your fault. Maybe you'd finally say, I'm sorry, no one protected you. You thought you were the problem too. You remembered the moment when you stopped believing you were enough. Maybe you were 7. Maybe you were 14. Maybe it was last year. You thought you were too loud, too quiet, too sensitive, too emotional, too weird. So you changed. You adapted. You masked, played the role of the one who doesn't ask for much. And you waited for approval, for permission, for someone to see the real you and still choose to stay. But most never did. Not because you weren't worthy, but because they didn't know how to love something that didn't ask to be fixed. If you could talk to your younger self now, would you hold their face and say, there was never anything wrong with you. You were not too much. You were just too deep for shallow hearts. The apology you never received may be the most painful thing your younger self carries. It's not what happened, but what no one ever said. No one ever said, I believe you. I'm sorry I didn't see the pain in your eyes. I should have protected you. You were right to feel what you felt. So your younger self held it all in. And the older you built a life on top of it. A job, a house, a schedule. But under it all, there's still that child waiting not for perfection. Not for everything to be fixed. Just for you, the adult version, to finally come back and say, you didn't deserve that. And I'm so sorry no one came. But now I am here. And I'm not leaving again. You did the best you could with what you had. You might think your younger self needs to hear that they should have known better, that they should have walked away sooner, that they stayed too long, it's that they trusted the wrong people. But maybe what they need to hear isn't correction, it's compassion. Because truthfully, I did the best they could with the tools they had, with the love they were taught, with the silence they were raised in. If you could talk to them now, maybe you'd say, you were surviving, you were trying, you were brave in ways no one saw. What your body still remembers even. If you don't think about your younger self often, your body remembers. It remembers how to shrink in conflict. It remembers to stay quiet when your truth burns in your throat. It remembers how to people please. It remembers how to disappear in plain sight. That's not who you are. That's who you had to become. But if you could look your younger self in the eyes now with tenderness instead of judgment, maybe they'd start to believe that it's safe to return, to soften, to speak, to dream again. And you could say, you don't have to hide anymore. I've got you now. The questions they'd ask you if your younger self could talk back, what would they ask? Maybe, did we ever feel safe? Do we find love? Did we become someone we're proud of? Do we still laugh? Do we still cry? What would you say? Would you lie to protect them? Or would you tell the truth with kindness? Would you tell them, We're not perfect, but we are healing. Still fall, but now we rise gentler. We found people who stayed, and we learned to stay with ourselves. And maybe that's what they really want to know. That we didn't give up, that we kept going, that we found beauty again, even after everything. The most powerful words there are words your younger self has been waiting a lifetime to hear. And maybe they don't come from anyone else. Maybe they come from you, from the version of you that has walked through fire, from the version of you that broke and rebuilt. So, if you could say one thing today, it's one. Let it be this. I love you. I'm proud of you. I will never leave you behind again. The conversation that heals you now. What would change if you stopped waiting for someone else to come back and say the words? What if you finally turned to the version of you who waited the longest, the younger you, and became the voice they always needed to hear? Because here's the truth. The child you were is not gone. They're not lost. They are within you, and they are still listening. The art of reparenting your parent isn't about blaming your parents. It's not about reliving trauma endlessly. It's about giving yourself now what no one gave you then. It's saying, you don't have to earn love. It's your birthright. You're not wrong for needing affection, validation, softness. You were never too emotional. You just felt things that no one else dared to feel. Because choosing to unlearn the things that hurt you and relearn the things that bring you back to yourself. You don't have to keep repeating the same cycles. You don't have to carry the silence forward. You can stop. You can listen. You can hold your own hand and say, you're safe now. Here, the luggage you packed too early. You carried responsibilities that weren't yours. You became the emotional adult in places where you should have been the child. You became a protector, a fixer. But no one asked, how are you really feeling? What do you need? What scares you? So you tucked it all inside. You kept smiling, became the strong one. But strength isn't supposed to mean silence. It's not supposed to mean self-abandonment. If you could go back now and sit next to that version of yourself, it's the one who was carrying the weight of everything. What would you say? Maybe you should have never had to be that strong. I'm sorry you were so alone. And then you're allowed to rest now. Let me carry some of that for you. Memory isn't the enemy. Disconnection is we avoid our past, not because it's dangerous, but because it's unfinished. We pretend we've outgrown our younger selves. We say, I'm not that person anymore. About that person, that younger self, they are not your enemy. They're the reason you're still here. They're the one who held on through everything you try not to remember. The one who kept you alive when it would have been easier to shut down completely. And all they want now is to be acknowledged, to be held, to be seen. Because you can't build a future by erasing your foundation. You build it by going back, gently picking up the pieces and saying, even the broken parts belong. The version of you that froze, there's a version of you that never moved forward. A moment where time stopped, not on the outside, but inside. The moment of the betrayal, the moment of abandonment, the moment of silence that cut deeper than words. That part of you stayed frozen in that year, okay? In that age, in that feeling, and even now, as an adult, you sometimes still respond as if you're back there, still bracing for the rejection, still trying to be good enough to be chosen, still walking on eggshells in relationships that feel just like the ones that hurt you. That's not weakness. That's unhealed loyalty to the version of you that's still waiting. But you don't have to stay there anymore. You can go back and melt that frozen moment with compassion. You can say, I'm not abandoning you. I came back for you. Let's move forward together. A conversation that changes everything. This isn't about rewriting the past. It's about rewriting the story you tell yourself about it. It's no longer saying, I was stupid. I was weak. I should have known. It's now saying, I was learning. I was surviving. I was doing the best I could. That shift, that reframe is how you start to breathe again. It's how you stop carrying shame that never belonged to you. Because when you stop criticizing your younger self for what they didn't know, you create space to love them for everything they endured. And that changes everything. How? Talking to your past shapes your present. When you finally speak to your younger self with honesty and care, you begin to see patterns in your present. Why you settle, why you hide, why you explode, why you shrink. You realize it's not because you're broken. It's because there's a younger version of you still trying to protect you, still using the tools they had: fear, silence, people-pleasing walls. But you, the adult you, have different tools now. You can pause, you can respond, you can choose again. And when you do, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing the entire lineage of your soul. You are the home they've been waiting for at the end of it all. Your younger self doesn't need more explanation, more logic, more analysis. They need a home, not a perfect one, but a consistent, loving, accepting one. And that home is you. The way you speak to yourself, the way you forgive yourself, the way you finally stop running and say, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not ashamed of you. I'm building a life where all of you belongs. Because that's what healing really is. Returning to the parts of yourself you abandoned, okay? And bringing them back into the light. So I ask you one last time, if you could talk to your younger self, what would you say? Would you whisper, I'm sorry, I see you. You didn't deserve that. I love you, and I'm here now. And now that you've felt all of this, I want to ask something from your heart. Write to your younger self in the comments, not for the algorithm, not for the likes, but for the healing. Maybe your words will help someone else find the courage to remember. Maybe you need to see your truth written in your voice. For the first time, what would you say to that version of you who waited the longest? What moment do you still carry in silence? You never know who's reading, and sometimes one comment opens a door in someone else's heart. One memory spoken aloud becomes a mirror for someone else's healing. So leave your words below. Even if it's just one sentence. Even if your hands shake while typing, because here in this space, your story matters. Your younger self deserves to be heard, and you never know how powerful it can be when one voice says what another heart has never had the courage to say. I'll be reading, I'll be listening. Pound together, one memory at a time, we become whole again.